Shalom, I'm Naama Rue. This is my husband, Rabbi David Rue, and we're talking about the laws of Shmita. We have been looking at different teachings about the agricultural laws during the Shemitah year, and now we're going to look at what is said about those laws.
So last time we looked at the primary Pesukim, or actually all the Pesukim that deal with the agricultural Shemitah. And I want to briefly in this video go over what our rabbis learned, what in the Gemara, primarily the Yerushalmi, was learned about each one of these Pesukim, what it teaches us about what we're not allowed to do during the Shemitah year. So one of the Pesukim, it said, Sadcha lo tizra, your field you will not seed. So it's simple that we're not allowed to plant anything in the Shemitah year.
Except for in a pot, and that's not on the ground.
But, all right, we're not allowed, everything that I'm saying is concerning the land of Eretz Yisrael.
Okay.
If you have a pot in your house, it's not a pot, it's not the land of Eretz Yisrael. So those things, anything that in one way or another would be exempted for
that's what I'm
those conditions,
counting on, yes. But it won't have the sanctity of Shemitah also.
Right. And it also says, for the second drasha, v'char lo tismor, you will not prune your vineyards, so we're not allowed to prune a tree. Et tzfiach k'tzircha lo tiktzor. Tzfiach is a word that you have to know to discuss Shemitah at all. It doesn't have an exact translation. It is anything that grows on its own during the Shemitah year that there has been no human hand involved with. It grows by itself. It could be that we planted it before Shemitah and it started to grow before Shemitah and it's continuing to grow on Shemitah, or it could be something that grew on its own entirely. Another plant dropped its seeds and it grew from that. Whatever these things are, it says you're not allowed to harvest them. So even these things have a certain type of prohibition of harvest on, and the rabbis say we learned out of here that normal harvest is prohibited. Ves inve nizirecha lo tivtzor, and the grapes of your vineyards you will not gather. So here we learn a prohibition of betzira. Now, in Hebrew is different than English. Normally in Hebrew we have fewer words to describe something you do in English. In certain areas there are more Hebrew words than there are English words. I don't know of a specific word for harvesting a vineyard in English, but there is in Hebrew, it's betzira. If you say betzira, the harvest of a vineyard, it is not, you cannot understand it as the harvest of anything else. So the Torah specifically prohibits harvesting our vineyards, and that has to be separately than betzira, harvesting grains and so on, and vegetables. V'haisash bas haaretz lechem leochla, and it will be a sabbatical, a Sabbath for the land for you to eat. There are three primary drashas, primary ways we learn out of this. Lochla v'lo l'schora, that you're allowed to eat it, you're not allowed to sell it. And we previously discussed various types of things and ways that things can be sold, or the limited ways in which they can be sold. And the second drasha that they make off this pasuk, leochla v'lo lehefsid, that you can eat it, but you can't waste it. And out of this, we learn that there's sanctity to the fruit. We're not allowed to waste it because it's holy. Leochla, to eat it, we learn that we're allowed to harvest what we ate. Meaning, I'm allowed to go out and get what I'm going to eat within the next 3 meals. That's not the normal way of harvesting. Normally, if I'm going to harvest a wheat field, I harvest the whole wheat field. I don't say, how much bread am I going to need and how much wheat do I want for cereal and so on in my next 3 meals. Excuse me. I need 1 bushel. So I harvest 1 bushel of wheat. No one does it that way, right? But I am allowed, that is the way I'm allowed to do it in the Shemitah year. And then if I have extra, I could sell it, or I could have someone sell it for me. And we then have Ve'ashvis tishmatena v'nitashta, and in this sabbatical year, it will be completely given abandon. So here we learn the Hovas Hefker, the obligation to make our land ownerless. If I have a gate on my land into my field that produces food, I'm not allowed to lock it. I have to leave it open for people. Ubacharish ubakatzir tishbos. From plowing and harvesting you will rest. We've already learned that you're not allowed to harvest, but we learned here that you're not allowed to plow. And included in this, of course, will be many these, let's call these avos, like on Hilchos Shabbos, we have avos and toldos, we have primary prohibitions, we have derivative prohibitions. We have a primary prohibition of plowing, but this includes, plowing is done to improve the land, to make things grow better in it. So to anything, like fertilizing the land and so on, are making things grow better, and they would be prohibited. And the difference, to a certain extent, between pruning and plowing as prohibitions are pruning are things that I do to the tree or to other plants to make them grow better. Plowing is something I do to the ground to make plants go better. There's the last drasha that Chazal, primary drasha that Chazal make on this, and for your animals and the wild animal that is in your land, all of the produce will be for them to eat. We learn what's called a chovos biur. I've discussed biur peripherally several times, avoiding defining it. But as long as there is this type of species in my area of Eretz Yisrael, then I'm allowed to continue eating it. But once meaning the animals can get it, as long as it's available for the animals to feed on, I can continue eating it. But once it's no longer available for the animals to feed on, I have to do what's called biur. I have to get rid of it. Now, in its most pure form, biur is I just throw everything away. But I can take it outside, declare it ownerless, leave it there for a while, and if no one takes it, I could take it back, and then since biur has already been done, I can continue to use it and use it up. So wine from the Shmita year, this is done with. And from Otzer Beis Din at least, as well as Heter Mechira and other things, there are wine of Shmita year, which has sanctity, and my Rabbi Rav Druckman uses it for many years. He makes sure that to buy it so that he has the holy wine, the wine that has Kedusha Shvis, to use for a period of time. And this is possible if biur has been done with these things. If biur hasn't been done, then they would be prohibited. So you have to trust that the hashgacha does their job properly. But this is biur, and from the pasuk of it's saying that it has to be available for the domesticated and wild animals in the field. We learn we're only allowed to use it in our house as long as it's available in the field for the animals. And these are the primary drashas, meaning these are, if I would have to, as I said earlier, similar to the avos malachos in Shabbos, the primary types of prohibited work on Shabbos. These are the primary types of prohibited things on Shmita. And we're going to look at each one of these things over the next few months. And as we examine each one in detail, we'll discover that there are all sorts of derivative things. Some of them are Torah in nature, some of them are rabbinic in nature, and we'll see what the differences are for each one in its own order.
So basically, for example, if you wanted to prune your trees or turn over the soil, you would have had to do that before the Shmita year started.
Correct. If I'm doing it to improve the growth. Meaning sometimes, like there's an electric line running through my tree and I have to trim the tree back so it doesn't short out the electric power. I'm not pruning to improve the tree. I'm pruning so it doesn't short out the power.
Okay.
So if the intent of the person is for these reasons, then it would be prohibited. One of the things that's prohibited, the basic prohibition of plowing, is also leveling a field. But if I'm leveling a field because I want to build on it, right, it would be permitted to plow.
Right.
So,
but like let's say you want to get your garden in order before the Shmita year, and then like Hashem takes it from there. But you can't do it once the Shemitah year begins.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And in fact, there was a guy at Mincha yesterday, or Mariv, I can't remember, who said, when he was asked to be the chazan, he said, I have to sit as much as possible because I was working in my garden getting it ready for Shmita.
Right.
So
because we're doing the video before Shemitah starts.
we're ahead of time.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.